And you know, we were talking a little bit about culture earlier, and the Philippines is an interesting culture in itself from a relationship standpoint. And some of my research that I've been doing has been around relationships and commitments. You have a country here where over 90% is Christian, and over 80-something, I think, is Catholic in itself, which is unique in itself from Asian perspective. And you have no legal divorce here. And so you see a lot of abandonment, or a lot of there's been an increase in like cohabitation without getting married, but there's such a high amount of procreation too, and then kind of bouncing around and having multiple kids and whatnot. But this, I mean, this is a very strong culture in terms of its beliefs about what's acceptable and unacceptable, especially from a religious or Christian standpoint. I mean, it's very different than from like where I come from. Where
how is it back where?
And I was raised Catholic, and in my 20s became Buddhist.
I see.
And I grew up in a place where there's all types of religions, all types of individuals. You know, in your culture, you talk about differences I notice in culture here and culture there. All white people in America want to have skin color like you, and all Filipinos want to have lighter skin color.
That's right. I was very concerned about my skin recently.
and I'm always telling students or people I run into, and if the topic comes up that your skin color is beautiful. We in the U.S., we want that color. People go and pay to sit in a tanning booth, a bed, and have light bulbs burn their skin so that they can look like you. And here you have lotions and soaps and everything for help whitening stuff. And this is the only place I've ever been to where, and maybe because Minnesota has 4 seasons versus like in southern United States where it's hot year round. But you see more people with umbrellas when it's sunny than when it's raining. I am like that. I'd rather get wet in the rain than get burned by the sun. Right, because you don't want to get your skin dirty. And we only look at, I grew up where umbrellas were only used if it was raining, and a lot of times we just like, we'll run from the house to the car and from the car to the building and just skip the whole umbrella thing. But to have the umbrella out when the sun is out is like, wow, it's an interesting concept. I mean, those are all like cultural things, and they're ingrained, and they're set in early childhood, and you just grow up with it, and you just think that that's how the world is. And you know, being a psychologist too, you get trained in, you have classes in like cross-cultural stuff, and the U.S. is a pretty diverse melting pot of different people and different ethnicities and whatnot. And there is nothing though, in all the years that I have spent over 20,000 hours face-to-face and doing therapy with people in my adult life as a practitioner. Even if I met with Filipinos in Minnesota, there's nothing that could have ever prepared me for when I moved here. You could read 1,000 books about a country or something and about its culture, but unless you're in it, it's not. It's. I can't even describe it. You just. You have to live it to understand it, and so this last 3 years have been very eye-opening for me.
Okay, that's a nice word to use.
and have open my eyes in the sense of my ignorance about how I could work with any type of population because of this or that. No. If I were to go back to the U.S. and Minnesota, and I were to see Filipinos, my therapy with them today would look extremely different than it would if I didn't have this time here. It's extremely different. I would have a much different understanding of, even like poverty. I was out to lunch with a brother from De La Salle, and someone, and there was a couple other people, and they talked about the Philippines is, how did they word it? Kind of like the culture of the poverty is still a good. It's a good poverty. You're not seeing children wasting away and dead on the street.
I see what you mean.
And so why people are very poor, they still are making a life and creating meaning and creating purpose